Hi, Roy here. Welcome again to another edition of the Right Has Left podcast. I'm your host, Roy Garden, where we talk all things Trumpism, anything to do with the Trump White House, as well as the Republican Congress. And yes, I do also talk about the Democrats. And I'm very transparent on the show. It depends on what's going on, and we try to show both sides. But basically, I like to talk about Donald Trump and his White House. So having said that, let's go ahead and get right into it. Some of the things that have been going on, of course, we always like to talk about things going on over in Iran. And we need to understand what is the latest news coming out of that area of the Gulf. All right, so fresh strikes in Lebanon. Yes, that has been occurring. Israeli forces and Hezbollah fighters launched strikes just hours after Israel and Lebanon agreed to implement another ceasefire. And that ceasefire, of course, came about from Trump's F-rated calls to Bibi or Netanyahu, because he was starting up attacks again on Lebanon, and that, of course, does not go well with Iran. And Trump was trying to get peace talks again with Iran, and he's trying to get, of course, this opened up again, the Strait of Hormuz, and he can't do that when Israel is attacking Lebanon. Now, of course, when he stopped, a few days later, he started back up again with strikes over in Lebanon again. So Trump doesn't really know what to do. He's always saying peace talks are on, then peace talks are off, then peace talks are on, then peace talks are off. And every time he opens his mouth, oil goes up, then gas prices go up with that, and then gas prices drop back down when it says peace talks are back on again. So it's just an ending never circle all the time. So anyway. So with these little bombings going on over in Lebanon, and with Israel again starting up strikes again against Iran, and of course Iran has been doing some strikes against us a little bit, and we're defending ourselves. So are we ever going to get any peace talks from this little war that we ourselves started? I have no idea. Now, Hezbollah is not a part of the deal, and the leader of the Iran-backed militant group has rejected the pact. President Trump, of course, said Thursday he would be open to a meeting with Iran's new supreme leader if there's an agreement to end the war. He also claimed progress has been made in ending the fighting in Lebanon. But Trump, of course, as I just said, always says that. You never can believe a guy for 1 second about what is true and what is not true. Now, what is true, of course, is gas prices. Now, gas prices have come down just a tad. About 30 cents, I guess we should probably say. And, of course, we have been stung by these high gas prices. Prices are still higher than what they were before we started this thing with Iran. That is a given. But drivers have been stung by these high gas prices and have enjoyed some welcome relief over the past couple weeks. Most of the prices dropping is because of post-Memorial Day weekend driving. Gas prices tend to go up during the holiday. You wait till around July 4th, they'll probably go up a little bit because people will be driving some more. And then they come back down. Now, if this conflict in Iran does not ever get over with, you're going to see gas prices go up to probably close to $5 a gallon. It isn't me saying that, it's the economists and people who watch this stuff. But prices have dropped a little bit. It's around $4.26 a gallon as this past Wednesday on a nationwide basis average, making a decline of about 30 cents or 6.5% since a recent peak of May 21st. Still, prices remain well above where they were clocked in before a historic oil shock set off by the Iranian war. Now, in late February, the average gallon of gas was about $3, and still there caution gas prices may rise again as oil prices jump and the war shows little sign of imminent resolution. Yeah, if the war continues, some analysis say that the gas prices could be around $5 a gallon, as I just said. So enjoy the relief. Is it going to be staying there? I don't know. But again, you hear these Republicans say, look what President Trump's done. The gas prices are dropping. It's all because of him. Well, in a way, it's true. Every time he's opened his mouth and said there's a peace agreement possibly coming, prices do go down because speculators say, hey, all right, maybe the strait's going to open up again. And then nothing happens, and prices go right back up again because what Trump just said doesn't really amount to a hill of beans. So he does control it in that aspect from what he says. Speculators base, hoping that the strait gets opened back up. But that's really what you're always seeing. Now, in other news, the House just passed a resolution this past week trying to limit Trump's War Powers Act in Iran, which was a significant rebuke to the president that he's handling of the conflict. The Republicans, on many bases, are starting to get a little itchy as midterms get closer and closer and closer, and polls are showing Trump's popularity continue to decline. And with the midterms coming up, it's pissing a lot of people off, and especially Republicans. So they're starting to buck him a little bit. And so we'll have to watch and see if the Senate takes up anything with this War Powers Act to kind of rein in Donald Trump. But I don't really see anything really becoming of it. Other than it's just a form of saying you need to watch what you're doing. But it's basically symbolic, I guess is what I'm trying to say more than anything. Now, President Trump this past Tuesday said he was appointing Bill Pulte as acting director of the National Intelligence Agency to replace Tulsi Gabbard. Pulte currently serves as director of the Federal Housing Finance Agency, and he is chairman of the Fannie Mae Freddie Mac, which supports mortgage markets. Now, his biography on the FHFA site lists career experience in housing and philanthropy, but doesn't say anything about national intelligence. Now, Trump made this announcement in a social media post listing Pulte's qualifications for the role as someone with deep experience managing the most sensitive matters in America. What? Mortgages? Oh, my God. So the safety and soundness of the markets and over $10 trillion says Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, a substantial increase from where it was just 12 months ago. What's that got to do with national intelligence, Donald? Nothing. Now, the director of the National Intelligence position, of course, as we all know, was created with the in wake of the 9/11 to help the United States Intelligence Agency better coordinate themselves. In establishing the position in DNI in 2004, Congress stipulated that any individual national intelligence shall have extensive national security expertise. Pulte has zero of that. But that's all right. He is a good friend of Donald Trump, and as long as he does Donald Trump's beckoning and what he does tells him what to do, he is, of course, going to probably be appointed. Now, Trump did say this may be a temporary position. It's up to him whether he wants to stay on or not, but he is putting him in that position. Now, one thing Pulte has done that Donald Trump likes, can't talk on this Saturday, is he's accused the Federal Reserve Board of Governors member Lisa Cook of mortgage fraud. Cook was the first black woman on the board and is denied wrongdoing, of course. Trump subsequently attempted to fire Cook from the board. The Supreme Court heard arguments in that case in January and has yet to really rule on that. He has also targeted New York Attorney General Letitia James, accusing her of claiming more than just one property as her primary residence. She has denied also those allegations. The administration has pursued these claims against her multiple times. Back in April 2025, Pulte wrote to the then Attorney General Pam Bondi and Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, referring his accusations to him. The administration has attempted to prosecute James multiple times. What does this all mean? It all means that this guy right here is a good friend of Donald Trump, and that Donald Trump likes him because he is doing his work for him, and so therefore he's a great guy to be my new little buddy here in taking over Tulsi Gabbard's position. So that's basically how that is all going to go down. Now, Trump's announcements, of course, did draw criticism from the Democrats, including Mark Warner. They, of course, don't like him. Don't think his appointment's very well because he is zero qualified for that position. He is zero qualified to be able to get into handling national security matters. And, so he's also going to maintain his role as director of mortgages for Fannie Mae. And, of course, if he does get appointed, he's not alone in fulfilling multiple roles within the administration. Secretary of State Mark Rubio is the current acting national security advisor. And in February of this year, he stepped down as acting archivist of the United States. Now, Trump has stated that Pulte's position, as I said, could be temporary, but if Bill wants a full-time, he can actually go ahead and do that. So that's kind of a little bit about what's going on, some breaking news. Now, I want to do a bit of a deep dive into Medicaid. And the reason I want to do this is because the news is kind of skimmed over about what's going on here. And this is going to be kind of my top story as I take a deep dive into what's going on with the Medicaid cuts. Ladies and gentlemen, this is important. Now, a new rule explaining how states need to implement Medicaid work requirements may make it much harder for low-income sick people to maintain health coverage next year. Now, the long-anticipated rule issued Monday is meant to guide 42 states and the District of Columbia in carrying out the work rules implemented by the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. You know, the One Big Beautiful Bill. They stripped away everything from Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, food stamps, everything else, PBS. They took all that money away and, of course, shoved it all over to the Department of War, Department of Defense, whatever you want to call it, and, of course, to fund the ICE and Homeland Security. They don't want people to. The government doesn't believe they should be in the business of helping people. And they don't believe that when you get over 65, or if you get disabled, or you can't now work 40 hours a week, you're worthless. So, and if you get past the age of 65 and you start having health issues, you're worthless. That's basically what rich Republicans think about people. So, anyway, they got this rule in place, and so. What's going to happen here is they have described the policy now as a way to combat waste. That's their excuse. There's a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse in the Medicaid program, so let's just not fund it. Let's just make new rules. Let's make everybody go back to work, and if you can't go back to work, to hell with you. So the work requirements are set to take effect in January. Now, beneficiaries who are part of the Medicaid expansion population must work or volunteer at least 80 hours per month, attend school at least part-time, or participate in job training. Alternative, they must prove they are qualified to work and have certain exemptions if they can't work, like caring for a child 13 years or younger or a parent with a disability. Now, here are some takeaways, ladies and gentlemen. Extremely narrow medically frail carve-out. The law included a series of exemptions for a certain vulnerable populations, including a carve-out for people who are medically frail and can prove it, but there was no clear definition of what medically frail means. All right, that's the little loophole. And what conditions also qualify as medically frail. But the new rules implicitly link the definition of medical frailty to a person's ability to work. If your condition significantly impairs your ability to engage in work and the requirements, then you are likely not subject to the work requirements, said Dan Brillman, the Trump administration's Medicaid director. The words significantly impair are not included in the law itself, he stated. The exemption ensures that work exemptions are directed towards those who can participate while protecting those who cannot, he says. So, the idea that, everybody's got to work and stuff is just not true. But now here's the thing. The first year is kind of self-reporting, and you'll need a physician's documentation about your medical history, as well as your physical condition, as well as your emotional and mental state, all right, about this work requirement. But the second year, that's when things get a little bit stricter. And so, another thing that was not covered is what happens if you're a cancer patient. That's all internally. A lot of times people who have cancer do not physically show those symptoms, but, you can't be working if you got cancer. I mean, you're under constant medical care. So, and this is, or if you got multiple sclerosis. And so they don't talk about that. And it has to be a two-step process that you are in active cancer treatment and that the active cancer treatment is prohibiting you from meeting work requirements. So, again, they don't really cover cancer patients either. So there's a lot of things that needs to be ironed out on this. So the next couple of years is going to say what happens. And the states, of course, are going to be under strict requirements from the federal government to do this, implement and make sure these rules are followed. The budget office estimated about 5 million people would become uninsured by 2034 with not having Medicaid because of the work requirement, including many who are working and should qualify but can't handle the necessary paperwork. So, as you can see, this new rules with Medicaid and the new rules with food stamps, which also have taken effect. To be on food stamps now, you got to be working. This is a thing. And I'm not. And yes, I fully admit there's been some fraud in Medicare, Medicaid, and food stamps. There has been in past history. There always will be. But to use the excuse, there's a lot of fraud going on. So let's just cut out billions of dollars from it. Why should the people that really need Medicare, Medicaid, and food stamps be punished for it's like a few rotten apples in a barrel, that old cliche, same thing. There's people who desperately need this and who need food stamps, who need Medicaid, and they're being punished for the few that have abused the system. I agree, iron out the fraud. I get that, but why punish everybody? I know this is why these things were put into place, to help those who are less fortunate. A lot of these rich people who got all the money in the world and refuse to share it or even help other people, it's like, I got mine, to hell with you. And if you can't work for me, the big guy, I don't need you around, all right? So go do something else. The system is broken, and the idea that those who are disabled go find a job, get in a wheelchair, I don't care if sit yourself down and be a greeter at Walmart or something, is ridiculous. A lot of people just physically can't work, so have a little sympathy for people, for God's sakes. Now, here's another thing, and this is kind of interesting to watch. Let's talk a little bit about Representative from California, Sanchez, and she was questioning Scott Bessent, who is the Department of Treasury, as you're well aware of, about the IRS and the recent DOJ settlement that was done. And it's kind of an interesting back and forth discussion. I got a little heated. Watch this.
Said that you can't, because there's ongoing litigation. You'll get me the name of the ongoing litigation, because the only ongoing litigation that I know of is surrounding the $1.8 million slush fund, which has already been suspended. The fact is that the judge's ruling in the litigation that references that slush fund only addresses the anti-weaponization fund. It doesn't even address Trump's immunity from audit. So I would like to ask unanimous consent to enter into the record the judge's order in the Floyd versus Department of Justice case.
Without objection.
Thank you. Now, Secretary, you said you're not an attorney, is that correct?
Mercifully.
Okay, well, I am, and I'm actually proud to be an attorney and know the laws, and I know how to read a judicial ruling. Furthermore, I know that since 1962, the Supreme Court has held that ongoing litigation does not prevent someone from testifying in a congressional hearing. So once again, I'm going to ask, why are you allowing President Trump and his family to have complete immunity from being audited?
Again, since you're a lawyer, you will understand that the U.S. Treasury and the IRS are represented by the Justice Department and the Acting Attorney General.
Yes, but I just mentioned a Supreme Court case that doesn't bar you from testifying. It's pretty clear to me, though, however, that you're not interested in answering questions. You're interested in arguing. Let me ask you this question. If President Biden amended a prior tax return and claimed that he was owed $1 billion, do you think that that would be audited, or should it be audited?
I'm not going to talk about any
because you're not really here to answer questions. I don't understand why you wouldn't audit that, and I don't understand why you wouldn't do the same for President Trump. So the ruling by the Justice Department,
do you have specific knowledge of an audit of President Trump?
Excuse me. It's my time.
You're
not here to ask me questions. I'm here to ask you questions, and hopefully you're here to try to answer some of them. I'm curious to know who counts as Trump's family for the purposes of this immunity. Is it his children, his in-laws, his grandchildren, his second or third cousin, his great-great-grandchildren? Do you know the answer to that question, Mr. Secretary?
Again, I imagine you have the Justice Department phone number. I would suggest you call them.
I'm not the one that runs the Department of the Treasury or that oversees what is happening with this immunity has been granted.
I'm not the one either. We follow the instructions of our lawyers, and we obey the law,
Representative. I hope
Representative.
that you're proud of your performance today, Mr. Secretary, because
I hope you get some social media
I think it's pretty safe to say that this is probably the most corrupt Treasury Department in our nation's history. And while you dance around questions to protect Trump, Americans are suffering in Trump's spiraling economy. Inflation is now rising faster than average hourly wages.
Nah.
Gas prices are at an all-time high with the war in Iran. The cost of groceries has risen 3.2% over the past years, and prices on most goods have gone up because of Trump's tariffs. So I don't see how you could call that anything other than a failure of the most corrupt Treasury Department in history.
Your time has expired, Ms. Sanchez.
So the Justice Department reached a sweeping settlement with Donald Trump, as you're well aware, dismissing a $10 billion lawsuit over the leak of his tax returns. As a part of that agreement, the DOJ added a sweeping amendment that forever bars the IRS from auditing or pursuing any past tax claims against Donald Trump and or his family members and his affiliated businesses. Key details of the agreement included permanent IRS shielding, a binding waiver signed by Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche, who is going to be up before the Senate for a hearing here next week, and he's going to get really drilled over this. Explicitly prevents the Internal Revenue Service from examining or prosecuting Trump and his affiliated entities for any previously filed tax returns. No monetary damages, and in exchange for the tax immunity, the Trump family received a formal apology but dropped their $10 billion lawsuit against the government without collecting monetary damaging. But then again, we're all aware of this anti-weaponization fund, which was not removed from the recent Senate vote on their marathon meeting this past weekend. But of course, again, Todd Blanche says that that's not going to happen. He fully guarantees that funding program has been dropped. They established a $1.8 billion fund, as you remember, intended to compensate individuals who said they were falsely charged and targeted and mistreated by the government on the January 11th attacks. The DOJ characterized the tax provision as a standard legal waiver, but the move has drawn severe bipartisan backlash from both Republicans and Democrats and legal experts over the percent of the president's administration's shielding for his personal finances from federal tax enforcement. Every president has revealed their income taxes. Trump will not do that. And he has a reason. Since he's been president, this guy has made billions and billions of dollars, and so has his family, off of the Iranian war, off of the Venezuela deal, and off of a lot of different projects, off of government contracts. And that's why he doesn't want anybody to see his tax returns, because this guy has made billions of dollars, and he doesn't want anybody to know about that. And he has done so many very close to, illegal handlings since he's second term as president, and so has his family. So that's why he doesn't want anybody to see his tax returns, because if they were to look into that, especially when he gets out of office, they're going to be going, what the? Yeah, seriously. So very interesting comments here. And very interesting reasons why he doesn't want anybody to see his income tax. Now, in other news on all these hearings on Capitol Hill, Mark Rubio went before this guy. He's Representative Lou from California, and he drilled Mark Rubio about Donald Trump and his why he has, been seen a lot, especially on live television, falling asleep a lot. And, of course, Mark Rubio got very defensive about that as well. Watch this.
Last December, it's a cabinet meeting. I'm going to ask you to focus on President Trump, and you will see that he is sleeping while you are talking.
Oh, my God.
Please show the video.
Products they make and what American farmers grow and produce has a fair shot to be sold around the world. On issue after issue, that's been the case. You talk about foreign aid reforms. This is not our money. This is taxpayer money.
Secretary Rubio, have you been at more than one meeting where President Trump has fallen asleep?
That's false. That's false. I've never seen him fall asleep. On the contrary, the guy doesn't sleep, which is a big problem because he calls me at 2 in the morning. He calls me at 5 in the morning. And, I like to sleep a little bit, maybe not 12 hours, but at least 6. So he works. The other day he was at the Oval Office until 12:30 p.m. 12:30 a.m. I don't know what you're talking about.
Secretary Rubio, I'm going to show you in a moment a video that shows you just lied to Congress.
Oh, okay.
So this is a video of a cabinet meeting literally from last month where Donald Trump is sleeping while you are talking. Please show this video.
A coalition of countries that line up behind the peace deal, behind the border peace, and it's still every day is a challenge. But it's been driven personally by the president. It's the reason why we're involved in this whole Ukraine-Russia conflict. That's not our war. It's not the president's war. This war started. It never would have happened if you'd been president. But this war is going on, and the president is trying to end it.
You are literally talking about issues of war and peace, and Donald Trump is sleeping right next to you.
No, he's not.
If Donald Trump cannot stay awake at these important meetings where the cameras are rolling, imagine what he's like when the cameras are not there. So I'm going to ask you, have you been at classified meetings where Donald Trump has fallen asleep or had trouble staying awake?
I've never been at any meeting where, and the things you're showing me now, he was not falling asleep. And I think
so
it's
you're
outrageous
lying
that I'm before
again.
the Foreign Affairs
You're lying
Committee of the United States
consistently
House of Representatives
to
asking
Congress
questions about sleep.
You're
This is
lying
a
to
joke.
Congress, Secretary Rubio. So I'm going to show you another video in a moment. The
Show me all
president's
the videos you want.
inability to stay awake on the job has caused other countries to perceive him differently. They mock him. They see he is weak and he is feeble. This is a video of a French news channel talking about Donald Trump falling asleep at a Memorial Day ceremony. Please show this video.
Well, Mark, a video that appears to show Donald Trump falling asleep at a Memorial Day ceremony this Monday has been circulating heavily online. And internet users have a lot to say about it. It's also reignited rumors about the state of the US president's health. Now, in the video, social media users say that Trump is fighting sleep whilst he listens to the speech given by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, and that his eyes appear to be closed for a large portion of the ceremony. Now, we need to remember here that this is a ceremony to honor and remember those US military personnel who have died while serving in the armed forces. And the idea that Trump was asleep at a somber ceremony like this, well, that has triggered outrage online.
Donald Trump's inability to stay awake on the job shows that there's something very wrong with his health or cognitive abilities. And in fact, on a number of occasions, Donald Trump will contradict himself in literally the same meeting or interview. In this video I'm about to show, it shows that Donald Trump says the Iranian military is both destroyed and not destroyed at the same time, something that Dina Titus alluded to. Please show this video.
In terms of leadership, we've actually left their military alone. People would be surprised to hear that, because mistakes have been made in wars where you wipe out everybody and then you have a country that's, for 40 years can never rebuild. You look at what happened with Iraq. We did so. Iran is in a very bad position. They have no military. All they have is good talk, and they have a fake press.
So, Secretary Rubio, instead of holding North Korean-style cabinet meetings where everyone goes around the room kissing Donald Trump's ass, I'm going to ask you to come clean with the American people and the White House as well. There's something wrong with Donald Trump's health or cognitive abilities. There's a reason he keeps going to the hospital and they keep giving him cognitive tests. We have not seen the president in 8 days. The American people deserve the truth. I yield back.
So, yeah, we've all seen Trump fall asleep a lot. And this kind of does a follow-up of why he's going to, the Walter Reed Medical Hospital a lot. And then, of course, he says he has to see his dentist and he's just getting standard follow-ups. Trump has got health issues. You know that, and I know it, and the White House can deny it all they want. This guy's almost 80 years old, and he is starting to deteriorate, both mentally and physically. You can see it, and I don't care how much they want to BS the American people about it, but Trump is starting to decline in health. A lot more than, ever was happening with the previous president. So, say what you want. But he has been falling asleep a lot. And he's also leaning a lot on things. And he has to sit down a lot, more and more. The guy's got issues. But anyway, he was just, but the sad thing about it is, of course, Mark Rubio is going to defend the president because that's his buddy. And, of course, he'll say whatever he needs to say. Again, this moves us into Todd Blanche because he's got to go up and get confirmed now to replace Pam Bondi. And hours after Donald Trump said he's going to nominate Todd Blanche for the permanent position of the DOJ, there's also been a lot of bipartisan arguments about that too, as whether or not this guy will even survive a questioning on Capitol Hill. Because, number one, Pam Bondi threw him under the bus and said now he's got all the Epstein files, as he is handling everything. And number two, about what Todd Blanche did about the IRS fiasco and putting a blanket over anybody ever prosecute Donald Trump or even looking at his income tax, which is technically illegal. And so, again, there's going to be some lot of big questions about this guy as to whether or not he'll even get through to be approved. He might, but I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. And other news, the Senate also passed legislation early Friday to fund President Donald Trump's Immigration Enforcement Agency as an all-night marathon. And it could be basically over that backlash of the $1.8 billion anti-weaponization fund that actually remained in the bill. They did remove the part about funding the ballroom, but that kind of stayed in the bill just to get it done. And the reason for that, as they say in the Senate for the Republicans, was because Todd Blanche guaranteed 100% that will not ever happen, and that Donald Trump has dropped it. But Donald Trump also said, talking on both sides in his mouth, it could be revived, but we'll again see what happens. So they got the thing through. It was a 52 to 47 vote after weeks of delays. Now, it doesn't mean it's ready to go to be signed to Donald Trump. Now it's got to go back to the House, just so you know that. And then the House has got to hash through it again. So with that, and with all the filibusters and with all the marathon voting and stuff that's going through, it passed. And what it includes is $38.6 billion for ICE, $22.6 billion for the Border Patrol, $5 billion for the Department of Homeland Security, and $108.5 million for child exploitation investigations. And as I said, it does not include security funding for the White House ballroom. They removed that, and they were given a guarantee that the slush fund for the paying the people who were involved in the attacks at the Capitol building aren't going to get any money, and that's all said and done. So it had 29 amendments attached to it. We'll see what the House will now do with it, because that's what's kind of got to get through that back and then go back to the Senate, and then Trump can sign off on it. So a lot of back and forth complaining about it. So whether or not you're going to see any more revisions to it, we'll have to wait and see. Again, you got all these billions of dollars for all of this, but you can't come up with any money for Medicare, Medicaid, helping Social Security, helping seniors, or helping with health care and health insurance. You can't come up with any money for that, but you can come up with billions of dollars for this, because we are rah, go get them, United States now. And the people themselves, you can't pull yourself out by the bootstraps, and the hell with you. Go out and pass away somewhere in the North 40. So, yeah. And, but I like I said, the money for the child exploitation and stuff like that, I fully adhere and agree to that. That's important. At least they got that part right. Now, the U.S. economy, of course, added 172,000 jobs this past month. Good news, extending the labor market rebound. The United States labor market appears to have found its footing. The economy added 172,000 jobs just this past May, shattering expectations. It was good news. New data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics showed that Friday. The latest job reports provided some stabilization after a year weak and stilted job growth. Unemployment held steady at 4.3%, while unemployment gains topped at 100,000 for the third consecutive month, a pattern not seen since 2024. Wow. Now, job growth was also far stronger than initially thought in recent months. Payroll gains were revised by 29,000 up to 214,000, while April's tally was revised higher by 64,000 to 179,000 jobs. Following those upward revisions, employment gains ran at about 188,000 job clips for the past 3 months, and nearly 114,000 job monthly pace year to date. This is all good news. Now, they were expecting that employers added 105,000 jobs last month, and that was unemployment rate would be budged from 4.3%. Now, what is not good news is with all these job gains, inflation is also now over 4%. Inflation simply means that your dollar's not stretching as far as it's supposed to. It's costing you more to do things. It's costing you more for food, gas. It's costing you more for insurance, mortgages, housing, interest rates, blah, 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 blah. It goes on and on. That's what inflation is. Your dollar is just not going far enough. So that was the bad news. We got jobs, you got money, And the jobs, as expected, the gains were only in basically two places. There's gains in hospitality, which was not there last time, and healthcare, which continues to grow. And you're fully aware about healthcare. You know those registered nurses that are not professionals anymore? Yeah, you remember that? They stripped away the word professionalism from the category of nursing. That's not a professional job anymore. Anybody can do that, which is bullshit. Nurses are a 4-year degree plus for registered nurses. LPNs require an associate's degree at the minimum. All right, so it is a professional degree. It is a professional field, and I know a lot of nurses were offended by the White House saying that it's not classified as a professional category anymore. But that has all to do, again, with DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. They don't like that. Women have really no place. The culture there, you can't do that. Men, it's a professional category, but not for women. So, and on it goes. So, again, the job numbers are up. Inflation is also up. And so, anyway, we'll continue to follow that and see how that all goes, and if we can get inflation nipped in the bud, then we'll be okay. Now let's move on to some more bizarre news, and this is my bizarre category from my podcast. Let's start with this. So Trump has called the 87-foot steel and wire mesh arena constructed for the upcoming UFC fight at the White House to be a permanent fixture on the South Lawn. Now, just so you know, the South Lawn is typically used for Marine One. That's where they land to pick up the president to take him to Andrews Air Force Base. Since this mess has been started to be going up in there, they've had to use the limo to get the president back and forth from Andrews because they can't land the choppers there anymore because of this thing. So anyway, he's compared that to the Eiffel Tower, and maybe it should be a permanent fixture there. He's speaking on that from the Oval Office. Watch this clip.
You don't know that in Paris, France, the Eiffel Tower, 1889 it was built. It was supposed to be taken down immediately after the World's Fair. And then they said, we sort of like it. Let's leave it up a little bit longer. And then they said, let's leave it up longer and longer and longer. Well, they never took it down. And, we're building something in front of the White House that's quite attractive to a lot of people. It's going to have the big UFC fight on June 14th. And I'm looking at it, and maybe we'll never, ever take it down.
Now, Trump has called this arch, or whatever you want to call it, very attractive, and a lot of people like it. He always says that. A lot of people, who the hell are a lot of people? I don't know who he talks to. A lot of people like it. I don't like it. A lot of Americans don't like it. I think it's a waste of money. But anyway, he always thinks a lot of people like it, and he loves it, and he thinks it's the greatest thing since syrup, and I'm going to have that there, and maybe we should just leave it there forever. And of course, if he leaves it there forever, where the hell are they going to land Marine One? Which is a very necessary, secure thing to get the president back and forth. So anyway, he says maybe we'll never take it down. He says it sees it similar to the Eiffel Tower. I don't know where the hell he went off on that, but anyway, as you saw in that little clip, he thinks that's compared to the Eiffel Tower, which was built as the centerpiece of the 1889 World's Fair in Paris and meant to be taken down after 20 years. The words, he says we kind of like it, but in reality, here's the reality though, folks. Here is the reality. The Eiffel Tower was left up because of World War II. It was there because the military found it very valuable for a radio antenna, and it was used to monitor and intercept enemy communications from Nazi Germany. And now today the Eiffel Tower is, of course, an icon, but they also have about 120 antenna and broadcasting television radio station transmitters embedded within the Eiffel Tower. That's how they get the signal across Paris, is with the Eiffel Tower. And for Trump to say we might just leave it here as a cool landmark, it's nuts. I tell you, this thing here with the fight and this arch, or whatever the hell you want to call the thing, goes along with some other bizarre things that he's doing.
I just had this done. You're getting a first glimpse, but that's your size compared. So those are among the tallest buildings in the world, including the Empire State Building, World Trade Center, Sears Tower, Chicago,
So if you lay it on its side, you take 2 or 3 of them to fill it in, because the width is almost 200 feet wide.
He's been on a rampage, of course, redoing Washington, D.C. landmarks, and so he can have his name and his legacy and everything. It's just weird as hell. Goes back to, I'm seriously wondering about his mental health status and why he's doing all this. So, the ballroom, of course, is now on a pause because of lawsuits. And, of course, as I just told you, part of that Senate package, they took that out. The money that he was trying to sneak in there to have this thing finished up is now gone. And the National Trust for Historic Preservation sued to stop the rest of the construction, and that's still being tied up in courts. In fact, they're hearing about it right now. This is another thing that came up. It's before the Supreme Court right now about this ballroom thing. And this is one of the Supreme Court justices asked the attorney that is representing Donald Trump about this. And in the crux of that discussion, the attorney says that the president has full legal authority to do what he wants with this construction. And so a thing came out about, what if? The Supreme Court justice asked the attorney, so you're saying, like, as an example, Donald Trump could, tear down the Statue of Liberty? She just, I don't know which one is he who actually said that, but it's in the records. The attorney said yes, by executive order. If Donald Trump wanted to take down the Statue of Liberty, he could do it. And of course, that was just shocking I didn't help Donald Trump's case about the ballroom, but he says that the president has full authority to remove the Statue of Liberty if he wants to. And they've gotten over 2,000 public comments about this ballroom. So, and with this, and now with this thing for this UFC fight, and the reflecting pool, now it's got this deep blue color, and it doesn't really reflect the Washington Memorial in the background too much. It's still, you can still see some image of it, but anyway, so he just, it's now American flag blue, in his opinion. He calls it a pool, a pond. He's calling it a lot of different names. I'm not sure what he wants. And now he wants to build the arch, as you're fully aware of. And that has gotten a lot of people like, what's going on? And now his new little thing that he wants to do, he's floating a redesign of the land around the Lincoln Memorial as his latest efforts to transform the nation's capital in his image. He told reporters at the White House on Thursday he wants to build a promenade. He says a lot of people want to call it the Trump promenade. He always says a lot of people. There is no people. It's him that wants to call it that. I don't know where he gets this, a lot of people. Does he walk around and say, says something to Trump, people go, yeah, let's do that. The only thing I've ever heard of besides he himself wanted to do something is, of course, Palm Beach County here in Florida exchanged the name of the airport, Palm Beach Airport, to the Trump Airport. And, of course, we've got, before he lost his bid, Loomis from Wyoming and the Texas senator wanted to redo Highway 235 and call it the Trump Interstate, make it all 4-lane and call it the Trump Interstate. But I think he's kind of changed his tune since Trump threw him under the bus. So anyway, those are the only two things. But now he wants to build this promenade right down to the Potomac River, and there's other construction projects going on. Some that are pre-Trump. Some of these projects were already paid for by Congress and wanted and are in the process of getting completed. But this promenade, Trump would have to do. This is a thing. Congress is supposed to approve all these projects. It's supposed to be Congress, not Trump, that says this can happen, and this happens. But Trump doesn't believe in that. He says, I am the guy that's going to do it. So, now we got this promenade that he wants to build, and we'll have to see how far that goes on. And, of course, the National Park Service, which is now under Trump's thumb, and the Department of Interior Secretary of the Interior is Trump's little buddy. So whatever Trump wants, they sign off on it. So we'll have to see where that's going to go. But this goes back to my question about the stability of our current president. He's more obsessed about his image and these flags that he flies around with his image on it and these projects and the reason he does this is because he sees what goes on in North Korea. He sees what goes on in Moscow. He sees what goes on with a lot of these places that have the images of their leader hanging down. He's obsessed with that. He thinks that is so cool. And Trump's ego is so much fed by all this that he now does that here in the United States. He sees that over there and he goes, look how they worship their leader. Why can't I get that done here? So now he's making it happen. My name shall be everywhere. My image shall be everywhere. The $250 bill that he wants to put out with his image on it, he says in the celebration of America's 250th birthday, that's really not what it is. It's about him. And his legacy is so freaking important to him. It's so important that everything is positive about him. That's why he wants a state-controlled media. That's why he sends the FCC after the television network news. The First Amendment is gone. The Fourth Amendment is gone. You need to only say great things about me, or I'll see that you are destroyed for it. And it's sad that this is what our country's coming to, that you cannot agree to disagree anymore. You either agree or you're going to go down for not agreeing. And that's not what our country is founded on, ladies and gentlemen. It wasn't, and it's sad. I mean, you can have your own opinions if you wish. I was a Republican for 52 years. Now, the key word was. Yeah. So this goes on now about the American State Fair. I'm going to talk about this. So Trump on Thursday announced several performers scheduled to take part in a kickoff rally for the Great American State Fair, which it still is slated for June 24th in Washington, D.C. Around his birthday. The announcement comes after most of the previously announced musical acts dropped out or distanced themselves from the event, which is being organized by the Trump-backed Freedom 250 organization. Now, again, these performers all backed out because when they were initially invited, they said it was a celebration of America's 250th birthday of founding as a country. It was supposed to be bipartisan. It was supposed to be not even politically attached to anything. Trump changed all that. This is not about America's 250th founding. It is about Donald Trump and Donald Trump only. He's going to give big speeches on this day, which may put people to sleep. He'll probably go off the teleprompter. He may fall asleep himself. We don't know how long he's going to talk. But but that's why they backed out. They want a bipartisan event. They want us to do the celebration. We all love America, but we don't want to talk about Donald Trump and him and everything he's done, and that's not what they wanted to do. So on the 24th at 7 p.m., here's what happened. I'm going to read this. It's pretty much verbatim, but I'm just going to tell you what Trump posted on X. So on Wednesday, June 24th at 7 p.m. in magnificent Washington, D.C., now totally beautified in one of the safest cities anywhere in the world, and in celebration of our country's 250th year history, we will be bringing you live the greatest rally ever. It's always the greatest, the best, whatever. It will be a special event at every level, a rally to end all rallies, because Trump's going to talk for 2 hours. And this was on the Truth Social account. We don't want singers with no talent but big fees to put you to sleep. See, now that these people backed out, Trump badmouths them. Well, they don't have any talent, they want big fees, and they put you to sleep, which is not true if you looked at the lineup. So we've told them all to stay home. Yeah, they said they weren't coming, Donald. What do you mean you told them to stay home? You didn't tell them to stay home. They dropped out. So you see, he's got to make it on his side, and he was in control. All we want is you and me, a few speakers, and the greatest music ever played. The same music you have listened to for years. I've never listened to opera. Who is performing at the rally? Trump went on to reveal that Lee Greenwood. No, I do like Lee Greenwood. His singer, God Bless the USA, will be introducing me. See, he's got to put that in there. He's going to be introducing me, Donald Trump, the greatest president ever. He's going to be introducing me. I'm going to talk for 2 hours. He's going to be the one to put people to sleep. Now, and he's going to use the patriotic song 1984, calling it one of the greatest hits of all time. Okay, opera singer Christopher Machicho will also be performing several opera songs, including the Sun, Di Rama, and Hallelujah, Ave Maria, and God Bless America, according to Trump. Next day, not since the legendary Lucidio Paravati has there ever been a voice in the president, said on Truth Social. So the participation of these two people comes as no major surprise. Both are strong Trump supporters. Both artists have previously performed at Trump rallies at recent Republican national conventions, as well as Trump's 2025 inauguration. So, again, he blames these people for dropping out. That he told them to stay home. They didn't. The media, of course, is going to cover this event. They have to. The White House press corps is dedicated to cover anything that Trump does. So this will be on national television. Now, whether you want to watch it, that's up to you. Go for it if you want to watch it. I'm not. I'm not a big opera fan anyway. I do like Lee Greenwood, but I've heard his song before. And I surely do not want to listen to Trump go on and on and on. And he'll go off the teleprompter. He's going to start talking about all the great things he's done. He's going to start bad-mouthing the Democrats. He'll continue to talk about Joe Biden, who's now been on office for 2 years. This is Trump's administration, not Joe Biden's, but he'll continue to probably talk about him and blame everything going on. He'll talk about all of his beautiful projects. He's going to talk about why they took his name off the Kennedy Center and how terrible that was, and the crooked judges. So anyway, we will see where this is all going to go, but as you can see, that's the deal there. As I wrap up this podcast for this week, I do want to talk a little bit about Pride Month. I support Pride Month, not ashamed to say so. I have many friends who are gay, lesbian, all part of the LGBTQ community. They're wonderful people, and the reason I'm going to bring this up is because one thing and one thing only, and that is how the evangelicals go off and bitch and complain and gripe and say it's not Christian and da-da-da-da-da. So I did some research, and nowhere in the New Testament or in the Bible, New Testament, I'm specifically talking about Jesus Christ himself. He nowhere has said, to hate the LGBTQ community. He continuously says, come to me, all of you. And all of you means all of you. And there are many LGBT community who are Christians. Christians is the word Christ follower. Now, organized churches, many of them, of course, they're going to say, what they want to say, hate the sin and love the sinner. Jesus never said that. But anyway, it is Pride Month, and for some that means nothing. For others it means, and for many Christians who struggle with same-sex attraction, you get a lot of emotions and people out there. And churches, some people even go as far as saying LGBTQ people can't come to church. We don't want them in here. And there's a lot of propaganda out there. But I found a great little article. I encourage you to look it up about this pastor who has some wonderful things about the LGBTQ, and you can be a Christian, you can be a Christ follower, and you can be a gay, lesbian, trans, whatever, and you can still be in God's glorious image. Jesus says feasting on God's word is as essential to your spiritual survival as eating food is to your physical survival. And you are a child of God, no matter what gender that you identify with. And, it says basically, hear his promises, heed his warnings, and be comfortable with who you are. And don't let the world, tear you apart. It says Satan is a deceiver and the world is his megaphone. Everywhere you go, colorful symbols call you to, be committed to God. And he says, just enjoy being who you are. And I love this article. So one of the most appealing qualities he goes on to say about the LGBTQ plus movement is the community, how they stay and embrace one another. The LGBTQ family welcomes those who feel misunderstood and marginalized. Tales of painful past are met with open arms. Fierce loyalty defends each other person's right for self-expression without judgment or correction. Yet many evangelicals like to judge, and they don't look at the own plank on their own eye. And that's the thing about it. And freedom isn't found in doing all that we desire. God is love, and he gives a definition to true human love so we won't be deceived by counterfeits. True love never harms another person's relationship with God. Love leads people towards the true Jesus, not away from him. This is why you must surround yourself with godly Christian friends who will encourage you to keep trusting Jesus without compromising what his word declares. So this month, fill your time with friends from your own church who love Jesus. Share your story with them. Ask them to pray with you. Tell them and ask them, find those who will support you. And if you have fear, make sure you find people who will surround you with support. And, so that's a pretty good article. And so I really like that. I want to leave you with a couple scriptures. And one is in 2 Samuel. You may look this up for yourself. And the reason for that is because there are parts of the Bible that talk about this very topic. And one is where David, he had a dear friend named Jonathan. And again, everything is open for interpretations. This is the sad thing about it, is so many people say, this is what the Bible says and how I read it. It's gone through so many translations and so many wordings since the Bible was first written centuries ago, even up to, where we are now with the New Revised Standard Version, the NIV, expanded version, especially in the New Testament. But in the Old Testament, you may remember when David and his friend Jonathan passed away, and he said, I loved him more than women. And some people interpret that, but most people say that, David and Jonathan had a very close relationship. Some even say that perhaps it was a, same-sex relationship, and physically as well as emotionally loving. And also, another part of the Bible in Matthew 19, verse 12, where Jesus talks about the eunuchs. Now, the eunuchs, who were castrized at birth, became gender neutral, and many of them were considered to be, gay, or however you want to refer to it, homosexual, and but Jesus embraced them as well and talked about them. So look at those verses, especially the one about Jonathan and David and Samuel. It's kind of interesting. I'm not saying that you have to agree with me for the interpretation, but you can look it up. Many those, especially certain churches, that say that that's possibly what has happened. The bottom line is Jesus Christ. Nowhere in the Bible does Jesus, deny or send away the LGBTQ community. He embraces them and loves them. All people are the same. Whoever comes before me. Okay, no matter what culture you are, what gender you are. So keep that in mind. I.e., for all of you out there who think like I do, enjoy Pride Month. Disney World is having a big deal about it. I feel sorry for some states, especially here in Florida, where we had the rainbow sidewalks and they made them get rid of them because they were on state property and you can't have that there. Many states have, some states still have them that they're okay with it, but here they had to take it out. I do think Orlando, though, they have continued to support and pay tribute to the Pulse shootings. There's a huge memorial going up to where the Pulse building once stood, and I do thank them for that. So having said that, that is my podcast for this week. Thank you for joining me. Look forward to your comments. Until next week, you try to have a good week. Take care.